time to take a journey, to find your courage, break through your limits, and master your destiny. It's time for Ken D. Foster's Voices of Courage. Ken brings you some of the most courageous people on the planet that will inspire greatness within you and change your life for the better. It's time to see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible. It's time for Voices of Courage. And here's your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, hello and welcome, everybody, and welcome. This is Ken D. Foster, and I'm wondering, have you ever thought about taking your business and your life to a completely new level? Well, I have two guests today who are experts in their field. First is a returning guest, Julie Renee Doring, and she's the #1 brain rejuvenation expert. She has mapped out the human blueprint and how to work in the quantum field with both negative beliefs and cell regeneration at the quantum level to have more memory, more energy, and more drive. My second guest is Andrea Ivanka. She helps female entrepreneurs expand their business with a focus on personal growth and leadership development. She will be sharing practical strategies to shape, grow, and leverage your business for greater prosperity and service to your clients. But before I get to my guest, a friend of mine, Peter Montoya, has a podcast called Peter Montoya's Leadership Experience Podcast. And he's looking for business owners and employees to come on his show. So if you are a business owner or a manager or somebody that deals with employees that have an attitude of maybe it's not my fault, it's not my problem, or things like maybe you're dealing with somebody that has a little too much office drama, well, this could be for you. So Peter would like to talk to you. And by the way, if you're an employee who has just a bad boss, you might want to schedule an interview with Peter too. So both of you can interview him, and he'll interview you at petermontoyaleadershipexperience.com. That's Peter Montoya, Montoya, leadershipexperience.com. So today our show is Rejuvenate Your Life Blueprint with Courage. So how do you rejuvenate your life? Well, I was thinking about that today, and I thought about how have I rejuvenated my life time and time again. And I think the first thing that showed up for me was taking this full responsibility for everything that's showing up in my life, my attitudes, how I show up, the experiences that are showing up, the circumstances that are showing up. And some of you will be going, well, what about acts of God and acts of nature? Well, I agree that those things show up in our lives, but I'm talking about the 90% of the things that you do control that show up in your life, taking full responsibility. I found that when I look at life from a place of that point of view, all of a sudden now I'm empowered, because if I'm the one that created the disaster, for instance, I'm also the one that can change it. Or if I'm the one that's created joy and love and happiness in my life, I can also recreate that. So full responsibility is where I think we start. Second step with rejuvenating your life is to let no test or difficulty or distraction take you away from your goals. I think, of course, you have to know what specifically is most important to you right now. What is your goal that you need to generate or realize in the next 12 months? And third, I think that we realize that failure is not an option. Now, a lot of you will say there are no failures, and that's fine. There are no failures, but because we're always learning and growing and developing. But at the same time, sometimes we do have failures. Things don't go our way. We look at our results. They're not the results that you want to get. So it's really important to start to look at those and realize that this is not an option for you if you really want to generate a life of excellence. This fourth step that I do, and I believe most of my guests do, is they feed their mind, their body, and soul daily with food that inspires greatness within themselves. So what does that mean, right? Food that inspires greatness. Well, the mind, I'm constantly programming my mind with positive, affirming beliefs and thoughts and wisdom that when I read it, or when I affirm it, or I say it over and over again, what happens is all of a sudden I feel inspired. I feel like I'm moving into a place of greatness. I'm feeling like I'm moving into a place where life is getting better and better for me. So we have to really think about the statements that we're putting in our mind. They're statements of truth. And we also, I believe, we have to remove self-doubt from our thinking. Next step, I believe, is in your body. For me, listen, you've heard this before, but hear it again today, maybe in a different way. It's what you eat. If you're eating high energy foods, or foods that really are agreeable with your body, you're going to have more energy. If you're exercising daily, you're going to feel more alive. And if you get good sleep, you're going to feel amazing. And then there's that spirit part, right? I believe that anybody I know that is really trying to work on themselves and become conscious have learned to expand their thinking through things like meditation, things like yoga, things that, exercises and ways to quiet their minds, still their minds, so that they can expand what's possible for them. These things sometimes stretch people way outside their comfort zone. I know when I first started yoga, I went in the first class. It was a hatha yoga class. And I remember seeing all these pretzels in there and thinking, what the heck, how am I ever going to do this? But then I realized, you know what? It's just one step at a time. I think I can do this. It's the same thing with meditation. People ask me about that all the time, and I want to say this. Everybody kind of starts with a very restless mind. A lot of time, for me, I started meditation a few decades ago, and quite frankly, I couldn't sit for more than 5 minutes. But let me give you an analogy. I was on a ski slope one day, and a fellow that had been skiing for about 30 years. I'd been skiing also about 30 years, but he had mastered going down these big moguls. Now, the moguls are just big, giant bumps in the snow, right? And he'd mastered that. And I started going down, and I was bouncing all over and falling. And he said, "Stop, Ken, let me give you a technique to do this." And he gave me a technique, and I instantly was able to ski down these big, giant bumps, and it was amazing. It was masterful. And at that realization that it was just a small technique that I needed to learn. It's the same thing with meditation. When we learn a specific techniques around meditation, life gets better and better. So what does this all add up to? Well, it all adds up to success habits. And for me, those success habits that I put in place, the way I wake up, the way that I eat, the way that I connect with my soul and spirit, the way that I exercise, all of that creates a life of wealth and joy and happiness. Now, as some of you know, I wrote a book called The Courage to Change Everything. And The Courage to Change Everything was written out of this mindset. It was written from a place of, what if I could deliver in just 10 minutes a day astute wisdom, and also cutting-edge wealth building strategies, along with some daily questions to really help you move past your any kind of programming that might be stopping you, and move you into your superconscious mind, and be able to do that every day consistently. What if I could write a book like that? Well, I did write that book. This book is called The Courage to Change Everything. It's daily strategies and essential wisdom to awaken your inner genius and to release anything that's stopping you. So if you want to check it out, you can find that at couragetochange.us. Again, that's couragetochange.us. All right, listen, I have my guest is waiting in the wings here. I'm just going to introduce her real quick, and then I'm going to have to take a break. But Julie Renee is a best-selling author, and she's the #1 brain rejuvenation expert. She has mapped out the human blueprint and how to work in the quantum field for both clearing and cell regeneration in her groundbreaking book, which we're going to be talking about, Your Divine Human Blueprint. Julie, there's so much more I can say about your bio, but let's just talk about you and this amazing, groundbreaking experience that you have been not only had yourself, but have been passing on to everybody? Last time I had you on my show, I was so blown away. First of all, by this book that you wrote in about 11 weeks. Where's your book there? This book. So this book is 600 plus pages. It's called Your Divine Human Blueprint. And again, the author is Renee. I bet they can get that on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and probably just about everywhere else. But, okay, how do you write a book in 11 weeks? Okay, and I think this ties really into everything we're talking about with the remapping your blueprint. So I want to ask you that, but listen, I've got to take a break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back, and when we get back, I'm gonna ask you what is this all about? How do we do it? And how do I model it? We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
Where do you turn when a woman you love is suffering from addiction, anxiety, or depression? What can you do when her struggle is tearing you apart? There's a unique program exclusively for women that offers sustainable recovery and transformation. Villa Kalima is located in a beautiful, peaceful resort-like setting in La Costa, California. Villa Kalima is a residential recovery program accepting only 6 women at a time for individualized treatment with proven clinical and holistic therapies for transforming the mind, body, and spirit, focusing on healing the cause, not temporarily masking symptoms. Villa Kalima is a licensed and accredited residential treatment center for women accepting health insurance policies with out-of-network benefits. Find out how you can help her begin her healing by calling Villa Kalima in La Costa at 760-814-8214, 760-814-8214, or visit villakalima.com.
You know you have it, the potential for a more rewarding life, a life that matters. But how do you get there? The answer is in Ken D. Foster's best-selling book, The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Essential Wisdom to Awaken Your Inner Genius. With this powerful 365-day guide, your future is in your hands. Imagine having a detailed roadmap to reprogram your brain daily with astute wisdom, courageous strategies, and time-tested wealth principles. You will redefine what is possible for you, unlock your potential, and bring out your best to take your relationships, finances, and life to a new level. Get your life-transforming copy of Ken D. Foster's The Courage to Change Everything by going to couragetochange.us. Quite frankly, there is no other book like this. Imagine what your life would be like if you had at your fingertips the success principles to create the life you've always wanted. Are you ready to live your dream? Go to couragetochange.us. That's couragetochange.us.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, thank you for joining me today on Voices of Courage. Today, our show is called Rejuvenate Your Life Blueprint with Courage. And all of you that are tuning in, I want to thank you, first of all. If you're new to the show, get ready to see the unseeable and know the unknowable and do the impossible. And if you're enjoying the content of our show, I also encourage you to check out a few of our networks that we're on. We're on UK Health Radio. We're also on Biz Talk Radio, and we're also on Talk Radio New York City. All 3 of these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and become the best version of yourself. You can find them at ukhealthradio.com, talkradio.nyc, and biztalkradio.com. I hope you'll check them out. All right, my guest is Renee. She's a best-selling author and the #1 brain rejuvenation expert. Julie, how do we write a book in 11 days, or 11 weeks? You might be on the way to doing it 11 days. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It was a divinely inspired book. I went to Mexico. I went to Cozumel and Cancun and Nuevo Vallarta. And I had timeshares down there, and I just collected on all my extra weeks that I'd never collected on, and sat down there for 11 weeks on the beach in a lawn chair with the Cabana boys bringing me my lunches and my iced teas, and I just would write for 8 or 10 hours a day. And I'd write anywhere from 9 pages to, I think my biggest day was 17 pages. But it was very divinely inspired. It was really something that I had to do. It felt like it was part of my mission.
That's so cool because, I think there's a part of us that books come through us. They're not necessarily about coming from our mind. They're coming from something deeper when you're channeling books like this. Would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, it's a heart's passion. I wouldn't say the book was channeled so much because it's all about, I was able to relay the thousands of stories of miracles that I've witnessed and the transformations and how everything that I've understood works in the quantum field and in the divine human blueprint.
Well, start talking about miracles. You had a challenging beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your beginning and that dance with death and the homelessness and how you changed that into miracles, magic, and synchronicity in your life?
Yeah. When I was 12, we went on vacation in the Nevada desert, and they were doing underground bomb testing. So I was exposed to the atomic bomb. And at 24, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer and had a fight for my life and died the first time at 24 and came back. I pushed myself back in my body. I knew I was supposed to do something. I wasn't supposed to leave yet. So I had a big battle. I had years, 17 surgeries. I had multiple kinds of cancer. I died twice. I had actually 5 near-death experiences, but 2 completely dead, and pushed myself back in my body and got myself going again. And I had gone through a lot of suffering, including if you've been that sick for a long time, and it's maybe some of you have been, you know that your financial situation is going to be pretty devastated, which mine was. At one point, I was homeless for about a year, and I did a lot of house sitting, and I actually lived out of the back of my car. I don't think people realized what was going on. I continued to try to hold down a job, and it was a journey. And at some point, I just felt like I was living in hell on earth. And I had this dawning on me that God had promised me the Garden of Eden, and I was living in hell on earth. So I made a demand of God. I said, I will sit here in my garden and pray and meditate and sing to you, but you need to either make me well or take me. And I didn't want to die. So I was going to have to disappear into the ethers with Mary and Jesus and all the angels. I was going to have to do that because I didn't want any more suffering. And what was so amazing is a few hours into that, my body began to regenerate, and I watched a master cell go to its perfected state, its God state. And that was incredible to me because I always thought that our spirits were of God, and I didn't realize that our bodies too were of this divine field of oneness. And from there, my body began to rapidly regenerate. I continued to go into my garden in prayer and meditation. And I was walking at that point with canes. I had been in a wheelchair, and they told me that I would eventually be bedbound. But within 6 months, I was running 30 miles a week on a mountain trail. I was dancing on stage with a rock and roll band. And I was looking 20 years younger than I had 6 months previous. And everybody was asking, and that is actually how this big book got written, is the doctors and scientists in my life were looking at me going, what in the world is going on with you? You look, like you could be your daughter. Like I was looking so much younger, and it happened really quickly. And so I began to define what I was experiencing and began to share how that was happening, and developed techniques, or was given techniques from the divine to use to access the quantum field and regenerate.
So are those some of those techniques? You gave us one, demand of God. I think that is one of the techniques. Is that would you say that's accurate, to make some demands?
Yeah, I think that when you have the no matter what, that you are unbending, that you want a result, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the result, but that force, that command to the universe says, I'm serious. This isn't one of those wishes. This is something that I absolutely require to continue on, or to continue in my work, or wherever you're making the demand. But something where it's absolutely certain you're 100% behind it, life has to change. That's
interesting. I remember when right before I met my wife, I made I made a commitment. It wasn't a demand. I said, listen, if you put that next relationship in my life, I will play 100% out. I will realize that this is the right choice for me, and I will be with her 100%. I won't have the mindset I'll be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I won't have the mindset of doubt and uncertainty. I will play 100% out. And Judy, my wife of 20 years, showed up 2 weeks later. And even though we'd known each other for years, I could never see her. What happened is my eyes shifted. The way I looked at things shifted, and I was able to see her. So I get that piece. So let me ask you this. Practically speaking, how can people tune into that power, that passion, that something that's greater than themselves to be able to apply the principles in their business and life? How do you do that? By the way, hello, Andrea. Welcome to the show. You'll be on the last 2 segments, so we're going to continue here. Go ahead, Julie.
We were talking about how do you access that no matter what attitude or that certainty, and I think that is a challenge these days. People are apathetic. And they're plugged into the frenetic field. You're doing social media, you're listening to 20 podcasts, you're reading many articles, and you're never actually really in what do I really need? And so I think one of the things you talked about in your first segment was meditation is one of the things that people do. Actually, I loved your steps and how the meditations are so important for calming the mind and bringing the mind into a peaceful place. So I think that's good to know yourself. I saw something a couple days ago that said that a person who has incredible power is a person who truly knows himself. And there are very few people who really know themselves. And so to get to that point of, I know this about myself for sure. And then activating your passion and your willpower. And I think, again, this is something that most people don't allow themselves to feel, that really fully engaged passion.
Well, Julie, I hate to interrupt you because this is a really important subject, but I do have to take a break. When we come back, I really want to ask you about how do we activate the quantum field, and can we do that through meditation, or are there other processes to be able to activate that blueprint inside of us? So we'll take a break. We'll be right back. And this is Ken D. Foster. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
If you, your company, or organization is out to change the world and you need a team that produces results to take your message to the next level, Wasabi Publicity is the perfect fit. Recognized by PR Week and Good Morning America for its innovative business practices, Wasabi Publicity works with companies and individuals committed to doing good in the world. Whether it's creating an engaging website, building a passionate social media tribe, or connecting their clients with top media influencers like Good Morning America, the New York Times, and Oprah. Everything they do is instilled with passion, impact, and brilliance. If you're an author, speaker, or organization committed to changing the world, and you need a partner to support you with PR, your website, or social media, go to wasabipublicity.com. That's wasabipublicity.com to schedule a call with Wasabi CEO Drew Gerber.
The most talented athletes in the world rely on a coach to get better, and the most successful business people do the same.
I have found working with Ken D. Foster to be an extraordinary experience. He helped me to expand my vision, increase profits, and showed me the way to have more fulfillment and success in my life.
Ken D. Foster is the coach's coach for business and life. He has been nicknamed the coach of the successful and wealthy.
Ken is an instrumental part of my team and the success I have generated over the past 12 months. Ken gave me the strategies to increase productivity, reduce turnover, and take my business to the next level.
So what's holding you back? Ken D. Foster is a master business coach with proven strategies to dramatically increase efficiency and productivity while maximizing individual development and fulfillment. Explore your possibilities. For a free consultation, log on to kendfoster.com. That's kendfoster.com. kendfoster.com.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Today, our show is about rejuvenating your life blueprint. We're doing it with courage. And before I get back to my guest, I want to just mention this. If you're a woman in the San Diego area and you're an entrepreneur, pay attention. There's an organization called Women's Wisdom, which has been assisting women business owners to not only grow their businesses, but to grow their lives since 1991. Women's Wisdom is San Diego's premier networking group for purpose-driven entrepreneurs. So if that's you, you might want to connect with them on the web at womenswisdom.net. That's womenswisdom.net, or I guess you can also find them on Meetup. There's Meetup groups around with them. So check them out. I think you'll really be happy you did. I've never come across a group of women that share so much of themselves with each other in business and in life. Also, I truly want to thank you for tuning in, letting your friends and family know about Voices of Courage. All the replays are available at voicesofcourage.us. That's voicesofcourage.us, or you could just ask Siri, Alexa, or Cortana to play Voices of Courage podcast. It'll come right up. Also, be sure to give us a rating on iTunes if you would be so kind. We appreciate those ratings or those shout outs, those reviews. So we appreciate that. Okay, back to our show. And my guest is Julie Renee. She's a best-selling author, #1 brain rejuvenation expert in the world. And we're just talking about activating the quantum field, how we do that. Julie, how do we do that?
Well, how we have a little system that we go through. We do a prayer. We ask God to help us. We raise our energy. We do an affirmation saying that we are fully responsible for what happens in our life. We blame no one, that everything that happens is our responsibility, because that gives us the freedom to change it. If it's someone else's responsibility, then they have to change it. And then we sing, we raise our energy. So we sing a song, and that song is about understanding our role on the planet, that we're the guardians of the planet and we create the plan and how life plays out. And so we've raised our energy pretty high. You take a few minutes to do that. And then we're doing an activation of some kind. Now, there's two kinds of physics. There's quantum physics and there's the Newtonian physics. Newtonian physics is mostly what people study. Quantum physics, in a very simple way, I'm not a scientist, is talking about us being part of a field of particles vibrating, a field of oneness. Now, I can get that because I'm very spiritual, that field of oneness. Based on how those particles are vibrating, you get a good result or a not so good result. And what we're doing is we're activating the particles in the field so they vibrate better for you. So we're not using any foreign energy. We're rearranging how you're vibrating so that your cells line up, that your molecules, that you line up in a better way for you.
So listen, I think people can really relate to this because you're talking in terms of energy and in vibration and frequency, and people that go, well, I'm not sure I would get that, but here, I want you to get it, because really it's about when you step into let's say a frequency of love, you just start looking at everything and start acting yourself, what you're grateful for, what you love in this life. All of a sudden your energy starts to increase. You start to feel better about yourself. You start to feel good. You become expansive. That's what we're talking about here. And as far as that energy field, I'll just say this. A couple of years ago, I had an accident, ski accident. I tore up my right knee really bad, MCL tear, ACL tear, medial meniscus tear, and a bone fracture. It was blown up like crazy. I went to a lady who can see what you just were talking about, Julie, all the energy, the frequency, the vibration. You might be able to see it too. And she could see it. And she came in and she worked on my knee. I walked out of her office, probably 70, 80% less pain instantly. 3 days later, I had no swelling in my leg. And 2 weeks later, I was back on my bicycle riding 60 miles. So is there anything to this? Absolutely. This is incredible what's going on. So can DNA, let's talk about the brain. What's going on? Are we turning off and on DNA? What's happening here with this?
I'm not sure about turning off and on DNA. DNA, it functions in our body, in our stem and master cells especially. And those programs are running all the time. And we can clear problematic DNA. And then on the brain, we have what I look at are 5 specific areas. Of course, science has it divided into more like 16 areas of the brain. But we do regeneration using a cellular neogenesis technique in the brain to bring the brain up to 100% form and function. But then you still have to exercise it. It's just like a muscle. You can have everything really in pristine shape, but if you don't exercise it, you sit and watch, TV for 8 hours a day mindlessly, your brain isn't getting exercised. So you want to, put in good fuel. You were talking about that in the first segment too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. No, I really get that. And so let me ask you this. I want our audience to be able to get a hold of you. How can they get a hold of you, Julie Renee?
JulieRenee.com.
JulieRenee.com. How is that? Julie Renee, RENEE.com.
That's right.
Okay,
Thank you.
And the work that you do, can you clear up like things like ADD or ADHD or things that have been labeled in this way? Does this work on
this works on everybody? It works on early stages Alzheimer and dementia. Traumatic brain injury is amazing. Strokes, amazing results, incredible. Children who are born with learning challenges or don't progress, they don't progress over 5 or 6 years old, they have amazing results. And then regular high-functioning people have amazing results, because when you get your brain working better, everything works better. So you can see better, you can hear better. It's so funny. A lot of times I'll hear somebody has the brain regeneration process, which is really simple, and their bladder works better. They're like, it wasn't working so good, and now it's working perfectly. And I promise you, everything is related to the brain. And so when you get the brain working better, everything in your body works better.
That is amazing, and I know personally I've experienced that time and time again in my life. And I do believe it all comes out of, the mind is the cause of our bondage. The mind is the cause of our liberation. If we learn how to use the mind in proper ways, and I'm not just talking about the conscious, subconscious mind, but also superconscious mind when we're tapping into higher realms of consciousness, which we can all do on a daily basis. That everything changes for us and it gets better and better. And, that's the message of the show. We don't have to stay stuck. We don't have to stay in a place where things are the same and, somebody gives you a diagnosis of you're going to have this for the rest of your life. Well, maybe, but maybe you want to go to see Julie Renee and think about, well, maybe there's something else. There's possibility here that I have not explored. And listen, I want to have you back on my show again and again because I love this topic.
Except
we're just scratching the surface. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we are. Let me get a picture of your book one more time, and so everybody can see this book. This book is amazing. It's called Your Divine Human Blueprint. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. Is it on your website too?
It's on my website. Yeah, JulieRenee.com. I've written 12 books. So this is an amazing read, and most people who read it, if you're a reader, you're going to read it 4 or 5 times through because the stories are amazing, and each time you go through, you get a deeper level of understanding about how the blueprint works. So it's an amazing.
That is so awesome. I really appreciate it. Well, Julie, thank you for coming on again as my guest, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I look forward to continuing to read that book. That's a great read. All righty. Okay, so coming up in my next segment, I have international speaker Andrea, and she's going to be talking about how to take your business and your mentality into a different focus, a different way of being, so that you can change what's not working and you can have a better life. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
Where do you turn when a woman you love is suffering from addiction, anxiety, or depression? What can you do when her struggle is tearing you apart? There's a unique program exclusively for women that offers sustainable recovery and transformation. Villa Kalima is located in a beautiful, peaceful resort-like setting in La Costa, California. Villa Kalima is a residential recovery program accepting only 6 women at a time for individualized treatment with proven clinical and holistic therapies for transforming the mind, body, and spirit, focusing on healing the cause, not temporarily masking symptoms. Villa Kalima is a licensed and accredited residential treatment center for women accepting health insurance policies with out-of-network benefits. Find out how you can help her begin her healing by calling Villa Kalima in La Costa at 760-814-8214, 760-814-8214, or visit villakalima.com.
You know you have it, the potential for a more rewarding life, a life that matters. But how do you get there? The answer is in Ken D. Foster's best-selling book, The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Essential Wisdom to Awaken Your Inner Genius. With this powerful 365-day guide, your future is in your hands. Imagine having a detailed roadmap to reprogram your brain daily with astute wisdom, courageous strategies, and time-tested wealth principles. You will redefine what is possible for you, unlock your potential, and bring out your best to take your relationships, finances, and life to a new level. Get your life-transforming copy of Ken D. Foster's The Courage to Change Everything by going to couragetochange.us. Quite frankly, there is no other book like this. Imagine what your life would be like if you had at your fingertips the success principles to create the life you've always wanted. Are you ready to live your dream? Go to couragetochange.us. That's couragetochange.us.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, welcome back to our show. This is Ken D. Foster. Listen, are you an author or a would-be author? If so, a few of my New York Times best-selling friends, book marketing strategists, and I are going to be teaching you how to write, market, and launch your book to best-selling status at no cost to you. You can learn from the experts that I use and their formulas and their simple strategies and steps to take your book to best-selling status. I've got some really amazing people up there. I've got New York Times bestseller Robert Allen, who's teaching a class. I have a woman by the name of Marcy Shimoff, who's sold 16, 17 million books. I have some of the book marketing strategists that have helped me to become #1 overall bestseller on Amazon. So there's some really cool people. It's no cost to you, but if you're an author and you know, this is my gift back to you. I want you to get your message in the world. Please hear that, because your message is important. And even if your message touches the lives of one person, great, you've changed one life. Some of you are going to change millions of lives. Come and check it out. couragetochange.us/invite is where you find that. couragetochange.us/invite. Okay, I'm excited. Andrea, you're here. Yay.
I'm here. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Welcome. Well, let me introduce you. Andrea's an international speaker. She helps female entrepreneurs grow their businesses through marketing and peak performance mindsets. She has been featured on TV and radio and podcast shows, and she shared the stage with media tycoons, multimillionaires, and A-list celebrities. And now she's on Voices of Courage. How exciting is that?
It's super exciting. I love what you're doing with the show. It's powerful.
Well, thank you so much. So how did you get started in this business of empowering people and empowering women entrepreneurs? What happened with you? Where did you start from?
Where did I start? I love this question because I think, like most people, I started with something that happened in my life that turned it completely upside down. You know, I was working overseas, and basically the contract that I had really didn't turn out, had to come back home, and went through some things that's quite common for women, but you know, the kind of things we would hope would never happen to any other woman that we know. And so as I went through this journey of healing and putting myself back together, somebody said to me, you know, that they had met me in this whole process, that I just had this way of looking forward to the future. And they said, you know, you'd probably make a really good coach. And I had no idea what a coach was at the time. I mean, all I knew was I wanted to put my life back together. I knew that I knew that there was something more for me. And this little seed, this little kernel in the midst of all the healing that was going on got planted. And that's really where the journey began. I went and I took some courses and really got involved in personal development and personal growth. But it all started originally just because I wanted my life to have a different ending than the story I was experiencing in that moment.
I love that. Well, pain is a great motivator of for all of us. And when we have trauma or drama or life challenges that a lot of times we get little knocks and sometimes we wake up, but most of the time we have to get hit over the head a little bit to start a new path, a new journey, and a new season of our life, which happened for you. When but you're in a place now, you're in a completely different place, and you're asking questions that I've read about what's going on here. Like, if you loved more in your business, if you love more in your life, how would that change everything? What's been your experience with asking those kind of questions?
Well, one of the things I started to get curious about as I was meeting people, different business owners, was I've traveled, I've lived all over the world, in Mexico, the UK, China, like I've done humanitarian aid, I've done all kinds of things. And so one of the things that I started to realize was no matter where I traveled, people wanted to be treated well. They were looking for kindness. They were looking for respect. They were looking for love. And when I got into business, I really started to realize very quickly is there's 10 million and one different kind of ways to make money. Really. You could get into business doing lots of different things, some that are good for humanity and good for the planet, and others that are not. And I started thinking, like, when you love somebody, when you love yourself, when you love the people around you, how do you treat them? How do you show up for them? And then I kept thinking, like, what if we actually brought this into business? Like, what kind of products would we create? What kind of services? Like, how would we actually show up for our team members, for our clients? And the more I'm asking other people and myself that question, right, the most interesting conversations are happening. I remember even when you and I spoke and you said, like, how can we not? Right?
Right. How can we not? Right. Yeah, that's really good. So, it's interesting because it does start with, a business owner, business leader in an organization. If things are not going well for that person, for whatever, there's always challenges. We always have challenges, right? The key is, though, it's that a lot of times I think leaders are guilty of this, as well as employees. They're looking to blame somebody else for their challenge. And I think that's the biggest mistake that you can ever make in this world. Because I think when you take back responsibility, you can really change anything that's going on. So how can leaders stop looking at others and create more fulfillment in their own life?
That's actually part of the answer, is first looking at themselves, right? Okay. The organization can only grow to an extent that a leader grows themselves first. And I think some of the most successful people that I've met have been some of the most humblest. And I feel like I'm very blessed and privileged that I met these kind of people, like, right from the get-go in my entrepreneurial journey, because it taught me that if you want your organization to grow, like, with every level that, whether you're bringing on your first employees or now the organization's growing and where you've got hundreds of employees, really the heart of what is happening, the responsibility, starts and ends with you. And so I take a look at what we're learning from neuroscience, what we're learning from coaching about peak performance and creating environments that thrive. And one of the things that's happening more and more, even as you talk to millennials, is it's not just about how much money you make and how much money the company makes. They're looking for places where it aligns with their values. And so that's got to start from the top, from the people that are in charge, if they want to create an environment where people are excited to come there, where they're operating out of their unique abilities, where they feel like they're actually making a contribution and making a difference. And we're just seeing more and more of that. I think people are just having more open conversations about it now.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about environment, and I agree with you. I think environment is very important. In fact, most people's willpower is not as strong as their environment. Environment is more powerful than your will. So if you're creating successful or environments that promote success in business and or even in your home life, then it's easier for you to create success patterns and habits to generate a lot more happiness in your own life. and a lot more productivity in the workspace. So how can people, give me a couple ideas of how people can create a better environment in the workplace?
Okay, so let's say first for yourself, like for an individual, it's the simplest things of, let's say, where your desk is, right? Making sure it's tidy, making sure if you've got pictures there, that they're the kind of pictures that inspire you, right? I know I have your book. I love it, by the way. Thank you. I don't want to get sidetracked with your book. I got to stick with the environment.
Well, I was just showing this is nice, clean desk.
Nice
That's
and
all.
clean. It's nice and tidy,
Okay.
right? It's one of the things when your brain is already overloaded with all of these things that need to be done, tasks, obligations, responsibilities, and coming into, let's say, the work environment where your area that you work in is messy, it's chaotic, there's things overflowing, even things like the email inbox, your calendar, right? All of that, it actually leaches our willpower. It's really interesting when we even look at things like eating well. Having an environment that is too busy will actually negate your willpower when it comes to good eating habits, just because of having a busy, cluttered environment. It's fascinating.
That's interesting. That is fascinating. And, I was just thinking of bowls too. If you got big, giant bowls and you're trying to lose weight, you might want to change the environment, change the size of the bowl. I mean, simple things like this change everything. As a coach and as a proven, powerful leader in the coaching industry, how would you say that coaching has changed you? Because I think that's an important piece. How's it changed you, and how's it changed those that you're working with? And listen, you got about 33 seconds to answer that, so I got to take a break. Go.
It stretched me into discomfort. Discomfort created a growth mechanism, which was really the opposite of what people need. Most of the time, our biggest growth comes from being uncomfortable, and the best coaches stretch people into that.
That's really good. Okay. All right, listen, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about specific challenges that entrepreneurs are facing when it comes to creating sustainable, human-friendly businesses and how to change that business landscape. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
You know you have it, the potential for a more rewarding life, a life that matters. But how do you get there? The answer is in Ken D. Foster's best-selling book, The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Essential Wisdom to Awaken Your Inner Genius. With this powerful 365-day guide, your future is in your hands. Imagine having a detailed roadmap to reprogram your brain daily with astute wisdom, courageous strategies, and time-tested wealth principles. You will redefine what is possible for you, unlock your potential, and bring out your best to take your relationships, finances, and life to a new level. Get your life-transforming copy of Ken D. Foster's The Courage to Change Everything by going to couragetochange.us. Quite frankly, there is no other book like this. Imagine what your life would be like if you had at your fingertips the success principles to create the life you've always wanted. Are you ready to live your dream? Go to couragetochange.us. That's couragetochange.us.
If you, your company, or organization is out to change the world and you need a team that produces results to take your message to the next level, Wasabi Publicity is the perfect fit. Recognized by PR Week and Good Morning America for its innovative business practices, Wasabi Publicity works with companies and individuals committed to doing good in the world. Whether it's creating an engaging website, building a passionate social media tribe, or connecting their clients with top media influencers like Good Morning America, the New York Times, and Oprah. Everything they do is instilled with passion, impact, and brilliance. If you're an author, speaker, or organization committed to changing the world, and you need a partner to support you with PR, your website, or social media, go to wasabipublicity.com. That's wasabipublicity.com to schedule a call with Wasabi CEO Drew Gerber.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody back to our show today. Show's called Rejuvenate Your Life Blueprint with Courage. So courage is an important part of that formula. And I'm speaking right now to Andrea Ivanka, and she is a coach. She's a marketing and peak performance mindset strategist. She helps people to wire themselves differently. She's been featured on radio, TV, and podcast shows across the nation. Andrea, we're just talking a little bit about consciousness and how to change the business mindscape or landscape so that people can really be more effective as leaders. How do we do this?
So one of the first things is really taking a look and acknowledging some of the changes that are happening, right? We've got artificial intelligence coming in really big ways. We've got a changing landscape in terms of just global transportation, how easy ideas are able to come across. So if we're talking about changing, I'm going to say the mindscape as well, it's really about having your finger on the pulse of what's happening, and not what's happening in the sense of, what's going on in China right now, but really like, what are people looking for? If you listen to the conversations that people are having, they're wanting fulfillment. They are wanting to show up in places where they feel that they are valued. And so if we're talking about changing the mindscape of a business, one of the things that I see happening that companies are doing this well is really they define their core values of who do they want to be, who do they stand for as a culture. Because a lot of companies, as they're growing, the culture just sort of happens, right? And before they know it, they've got employees and staff, and the culture hasn't been really defined, and it's just this place where it's busy and everybody's doing, but people aren't fulfilled. So I think a big
well, in the last couple of years, people have really taken a look at the culture that is been created, especially around female entrepreneurs and female business leaders in the industries in corporate America. It's really changed a lot to be able to really help people get out of feeling less pay, that stuff, especially for our female entrepreneurs out there. How do you help people do that? How do you help them change that corporate culture and mindset that's been ingrained?
Well, I think first of all is recognizing that men and women are wired different. I mean, we say it tongue in cheek and everybody knows it in their personal relationships, but really when it comes to how we're wired and how women are wired to do business, I've done a lot of research on this, on the neuroscience behind it. Like, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I'm just fascinated with this of connection, emotional intelligence, empathy, all of these things, and actually taking these aspects that a lot of women possess and making them an asset to an organization, and helping women to realize that, just because they might not be into like hustle and grind the exact same way, because we don't have the same amounts of testosterone, right, it doesn't mean that there's not the same kind of value to offer in the way that we're wired and what we bring to the table.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, by the way, I'm getting into this show. I did a last segment without letting people know how to get a hold of you. How do the people get a hold of you, Andrea?
Very easily. If they go to AndreaIvanka.com, very easy. You can reach me there. Okay.
Andrea, Andrea, Ivanka, IVANKA.com, AndreaIvanka.com.
Thank you.
Okay. A lot of people show up in their work environments and they feel like they have the imposter syndrome going on. How do we overcome that, feeling like we're not who we really are?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most interesting conversations I had was with Mark Bowden. He's like the world's #1 expert in nonverbal communication, amazing gentleman. And he talked about how he was teaching and training a prime minister of a country in nonverbal communication. And he had this moment like, do these people really believe me? Do I know what I'm doing? And one of the things that he shared is like, almost everybody goes through this at some point. And for me, hearing that, it just took some of the pressure off. So I think understanding like you're not the only one, first of all. And then one of the things that I teach my clients to do, and I've done for myself, is like, go back through your life, list off the things that you're proud of, the things that you've accomplished, big or small. And it starts to put into perspective really how you're looking at yourself, because it's easy sometimes to pick on like one little thing that's maybe not going as well as you wanted and being like, oh my goodness, I'm an imposter. Versus if you look at your entire life and the things you've accomplished, all of a sudden you've got this great list that you can look back on, and then you're not faking it till you make it. It's actually your story.
What I love about that is 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, I had just gotten into a dark place and I thought to myself, how can I get out of this? And I was looking at my life at that point. Oh, you haven't accomplished what you set out to do. There's just negative thinking was happening. It was pouring in my brain. I said, stop. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write out all the things that I've accomplished and who I am and who I've become. And it took me maybe 10, 15 minutes, and I wrote out 2 pages of all this stuff. And I looked at it and I went, wow, you know what, need to get back into gratitude, into reality, and realize that what's going on now is just temporary. What's happening in my life is this: I'm on a success pattern to generate success, not only in my life, but in the lives of many, many other people. And that took me right out of it. So, what are some of the challenges that some of the high-performing entrepreneurs that you work with, what are some of the challenges they have, and maybe they don't even want to talk about it?
One of the big ones is they tend to be very hard on themselves. Like, they hold themselves to this standard of being able to perform all the time, guilt about taking time off, guilt over feeling like they've dropped the ball somewhere. And so a lot of that, it comes from this need almost to like do things on their own, be the one that's really in charge, and feeling like, okay, well, if I ask for help or if I ask for support, people are going to look at me in a certain way, like, well, what do you mean you need help? Like, you're the one in charge, like you're the one that's supposed to be at the top. And so it gets lonely. And one of the things that we do with these high performers that we work with is giving them an environment and a community of other like-minded thinkers where they can come and get supported, because really, those are just moments in time, right? They don't, like you said, like when you made that list, like you got yourself back on track, but it's giving them a safe space to realize like, hey, we all have these moments, and then giving them strategies to get past it. And a lot of it is actually building time off into the schedule.
I come across a lot of entrepreneurs like that are very wealthy, and it's very interesting, because I think there's almost a fear that if they don't keep pushing and driving, everything will stop. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they can start to understand that if you're on that track, then what's going to happen is it's going to get more and more and more intense, more stressful, more challenging for you, unless you learn how to stop and quiet yourself, quiet your mind, take some time for yourself, take the time for planning and organizing your life and your children, your family. It's amazing how many people I've worked with that are multi-gazillionaires that they're so out of balance. And a lot of them, unfortunately, come to me. They're not on a winning streak when they show up. They don't know what to do because they're so out of balance. And it's just all they know. But, with people like me and you, that's what we do. We help people to change their thinking, look at it from different points of view, reduce their stress, reduce their anxiety, become more productive, become more peaceful and more fulfilled. I know that's what you do, Julie, because that's what I do. Or Andrea, sorry, I'm thinking Julie last show. Anyway, Andrea Ivanka is my guest here, and I'm just about out of time. We've got a couple more minutes, though. For you, what is your vision for your business, your life, your the people that you're working with right now?
Such a great question. So one of the big visions I have is to actually make an impact for female entrepreneurs globally. I mean, over the next about 5 years, they're expecting, I did some research on this, about $28 trillion is going to run through women's hands, age 40 plus. And a lot of these women are starting businesses, or they're doing grassroots movements. And for a lot of these women, as I'm talking to them, they've been moms for years, and now they're empty nesters, and they want to do something more, and they're not sure where to go. So the community I'm creating is really to create that support structure to help them through those first steps, and really to help them realize that it doesn't matter when you're starting. What's important is if there's this calling on your heart to go and do something, that it's time to do it, because the best time that you have is now.
I want to just plus you on that, because I think there's also there's moms out there that are working moms, or they're stay-at-home moms, and they're feeling what you just said. They're feeling that tug on their heart, and you're like, well, I can't do it now. I'm working, and I have a family, and I have my husband. I've got a triple load. How am I going to add something else in? And it's amazing what you do, because I know what you do is help them to be able to let go of some things so that they can add in their heart, their passion, their love, and their life gets better and better.
I believe if we're alive now, it matters. It's for a reason. If there's something that's bubbling up inside of you, it's there for a reason. We don't know what happens after. You can have whatever beliefs you want, but if you're alive now, your life matters.
That's really good. So All right, you got the microphone right now. We're in 160 countries. You've got a message to women right now. What is your message to the women that are listening in 160 countries to this show right now?
If there is something that has been put on your heart, something that keeps bubbling up, no matter how many times you try to shove it away, no matter how many times you tell yourself it's not the right time, you're too busy, kids, husband, career. If there's something there, lean in and listen. It's there for a reason. And I promise you, if you reach out, you will find the support around you to take the steps. You might not be able to see the whole journey, and you might not be able to see all the steps that you're going to take. But at least if you take one step and then another and another, the rest of it's going to show up, and it'll be glorious. Not always easy, but glorious.
I'm going to plus that with you, because I also think that where two or more are gathered, there is spirit, there is power, there is passion. And, so if you are an individual and you're trying to do it alone, stop. Surround yourself with the top coaches in the nation. Surround yourself. They will help you collaborate and get your team around you. If you have a team right now and you're going, this isn't really working for me, then a coach will help you. Like Andrea can help you to really look at what's working, what's not working, and see it from different points of view. So that's what coaches do. That's what I do. That's what she does. And you are in good hands with her. I've seen her, I've read her, you just heard her. She's a woman of integrity. So I hope you'll reach out to her. Ivanka, one more time, let's tell everybody where to get a hold of you.
You can go to www.andreaivanka, that's AndreaIvanka.com.
Andrea, thank you so much for being here on the show. I really appreciate having you. I hope you'll come back someday and share us with some more of your grace and wisdom. It really has helped, I'm sure, a lot of people today. And I want to thank all of you for listening to Voices of Courage. It's important for you to pass on the information to your friends and family and associates that we have on this show. So if you go to voicesofcourage.us, you can get all of our replays. You can send people to that link, voicesofcourage.us. Or you can just listen on iTunes or iHeart or Spotify or any of the top podcasters out there, pod stations out there. So I hope you'll do that. I hope you go on Amazon and give us a review. We'd really appreciate that. Again, Voices of Courage, just check us out. And hope you'll subscribe too. All right, have a blessed week. We'll be back next week. But again, you can get all the shows that we're coming up on our 100th show here in just a few weeks. So hope you'll listen and tune in. Andrea, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us for Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us. And we're always interested in what you have to say. So follow Ken on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or email your questions and comments to viewer@voicesofcourage.us. Also, you can find all of Ken's previous shows by visiting voicesofcourage.us. Be sure to join us next time as Ken brings more stories of courage that will inspire greatness within you and change your life for the better. Until next time, live courageously and see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible. This has been Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster.
AM/FM 247, the best in talk and music all day and every day.